Brexit, that thing that we were all told to love, cutting ourselves off from the European Union and losing all of our privileges, and is now something that you would see in some sort of zombie horror apocalypse. It has caused absolute devastation to the British economy. So it was interesting to see a Labour MP and a Tory MP fighting over how they would make Brexit work under Trump tariffs. So I'm going to ask the question, do the Tories and Labour, might as well chuck in reform, actually understand what Brexit has done to Britain? Let's have a listen.
And when we look at China, they're hitting back with tariffs of the same sort of margin. Canada too, and possibly the EU. It's a global recession, isn't it, coming down the line, and a trade war?
It's not coming down the road, it's here already. He started a trade war and the markets are in full recession mode. He's lost about 5 trillion on the world stock market.
At what, the worst week for stocks since March of 2020, back smack in the middle of COVID, in the beginning of COVID. And we've got the S&P losing something like $5.2 trillion worth of value, market value this week. So yeah, definitely one for a major, major risk off, really coming off of course, President Trump's tariff.
Something as bad as COVID. So we've had the 2008 crash, we've then had COVID, and now we've got Trump's tariffs.
What difference does it make if we negotiate a few percentage points off the tariffs?
Well, I think it's important that the Prime Minister tries to negotiate a reduction in tariffs. That would be good for the UK economy if it was achieved. I've got no faith in his ability to do that, however, given his track record thus far. He went out to Washington...
Hasn't he done quite well keeping it to 10% on the basis of a relationship?
Absolutely not. No, he went out to Washington with two goals. One, which was to keep the UK free from any tariffs being introduced at all. Another was to keep Trump at the table in Ukraine. And on both of those counts, he has failed quite obviously in his achievement. All he achieved was to present a very nice letter from the King inviting Donald Trump to visit the UK at some point
Would you scrap
this
the
year.
state visit?
No, I wouldn't scrap the state visit. I don't.
Ah yes, the state visit, the thing that worked so well last time and guaranteed us those 10% tariffs wouldn't appear. Oh no, wait, it made no difference and we never even got a trade deal with the US. But the reason I bring this up is because you're going to notice a pattern taking place. You're going to see these sort of criticisms, but not the overall criticism, the bigger picture. And in this case, it's Donald Trump himself. He's the one that's implemented these tariffs from nowhere. He's caused an economic recession, and the Conservatives can't criticise that for whatever reason.
I think that's
I agree with everything we've done, but you're criticising it. We were told by the Conservatives for years that there was an oven-ready deal for a free trade agreement with the US.
There was, and Joe Biden put it on ice. Joe Biden said there will not be a trade deal with the United Kingdom.
And we worked out there was not a free trade deal at all.
So this idea...
Something that no one is talking about is the fact that Northern Ireland, from my understanding of the Windsor Framework, is going to be hit with a 20% tariff because it's in the single market. But the other problem that no Brits will ever talk about is the fact that even though Joe Biden was in charge and he can go and sign off the trade agreement, he can't finish that signing off. It has to go to Congress. And America has over 50 million Irish Americans, and they do not want to see any harm to the Good Friday Agreement, and it's something that is never talked about on British TV or by the major parties.
This idea that the Labour government, by getting this 10% tariff, has done a difficult job, like you said, despite the fact that the Conservative government did absolutely nothing to ease free trade in the US or around the world in their 14 years in government, I think just shows a real failure on the Conservative part to really accept responsibility for the damage of your economic policy over the last 14 years.
It's the Conservative Party that delivered Brexit, which is, as a result, means that we're only receiving a 10% tariff as opposed to the rest of the
so it means that we're really... Because of the awful Brexit deal, because of the difficult Brexit deal, the dreadful Brexit deal that you ended up negotiating, not only have we now got trade tariffs to the US, we're also finding it really difficult in order to trade.
20% tariffs. Something that your leader spent years
you are going to have to let me
get
finish a sentence.
But you're going to have to let somebody else speak.
We've now got a situation where we've got trade tariffs with the US, and it's incredibly difficult to trade with the European Union. So we're being hit by both sides because of the awful Brexit deal that your party negotiated.
There is a core issue here that they are all skirting around, and it is leaving us in purgatory, also known as limbo. The core issue here, created by Brexiteers, is that Labour and the Tories are trapped in a weird political limbo. They can't admit Brexit's failures without alienating voters, but they also can't ignore the massive economic and social costs. So they end up in this endless loop of half measures promises and dodging the really tough questions, which is exactly what you've just seen there. For Northern Ireland specifically, and Gibraltar, it's like the ultimate symbol of the Brexit mess. Everyone talks about trade and tariffs, but they avoid the human, cultural and political realities, especially around Northern Ireland. Neither party has a real plan, neither do Reform. It's just a series of reactions. And when someone like Donald Trump turns up, you find people like this can't deal with it, and Britain can't deal with it because we're already in a weakened position, so it's hard to have leverage.
There's nothing heroic in going down fighting if it can be avoided. Nothing even remotely patriotic in death or glory if the odds are firmly on the former. Nothing inglorious in trying to shorten a war that we are clearly losing.
Losing? Europe is still...
Europe is lost. And before our forces are wiped out completely, now is the time to negotiate in order to obtain the best conditions possible. Hitler will not insist on outrageous terms. He will know his own weaknesses. He will be reasonable.
When will the lesson be learned? When will the lesson be learned? How many more dictators must be wooed, appeased, good God, given him mixed privileges, before we learn? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
All Trump has had to do is say a few words that he's putting a 10% tariff on the UK and we go into meltdown and there's no leverage, whereas in the EU and other countries like China and Japan and Australia and Canada, they've slammed back and gone, we're putting tariffs. And the UK has gone, no, we'll just talk to you nicely and offer you a state visit, and that'll do everything we need to get this trade deal over the line. Whilst forgetting that it's Congress that has to ratify it, you've got elections coming up within a very short period of time, and the Congress people will be listening to Irish Americans. This isn't strategy, it's crisis management with a press office. Brexit broke the system, but both parties are too scared to say it out loud because they'd have to admit they voted for it, backed it, or at the very least, refused to fight it. So instead of vision, we get caution. Instead of leadership, we get silence. Instead of pushback to Trump, we get submission. Britain isn't in post-Brexit recovery, it's in post-truth paralysis, and neither red nor blue has the guts to break the cycle. What's worse, pretending Brexit's fine, or being too scared to admit it's broken? Drop your take below in the comments section. Let's talk about the silence from both sides. Once again, thank you to all my viewers, my Patreons and subscribers. You keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to help out, there's a link in the description. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Bye for now.